today. A bit of a different session to my professional life, but I hope to show you that there is a very close link between the own personality in your life, and the more you can be yourself in your professional career, the more you will be successful. I start. Now it is working. So for me, diversity and inclusion is an essential part. We need to have diverse workforces and workplaces. I think you are all a very good example, and the crowd here in the room also, when I see the names online, this is the young generation, and sorry for counting me with nearly mid-40s also to the young crowd, but I think I'm also a part of the younger generation, at least in the workspace. And for me, there's definitely still the need for diversity and inclusion. And I'm very happy that we decided for July, because we also have Pride Month and also the soccer games here in Europe somehow behind us, and we saw a very big topic also in the white press, and I will also come to this one. I will give you a quick introduction about who I am, and then have a few statements and topics I want to really encourage you here in the room, but as well online, to start a live discussion on those topics, because I think, and this is where I'm also driving for, I'm not the one lecturing the whole day. I prefer the live interaction with all of you. I studied in Dortmund at International School of Management. Then after 9/11, even I was lucky to be able to join the aviation industry with All Nippon Airways in Frankfurt, and then moved on to American Airlines, had also a short stop in a hotel management company, and then, which was until now my longest career step within Sodexo, having spent there 10 years in various key account management positions in food services and also in infrastructure services, facility management services, and I had various roles nationally and internationally. So I worked with a lot of cultures. I managed India, Middle East, and Africa for Nokia. We had the interaction also with the northern countries. We also, I managed also the Zurich account in the US on a project, as well as in the UK and here. And also I see online Hannah, a fellow Sodexo companion. I worked with her during these times. She's also a strong advocate for the LGBT networks. And in 2018, I joined LSG. After having launched the Pride network for the DACH region at Sodexo, having done those steps, even standing in front of 500 people and telling them more or less that I am gay and that we now launched the Pride chapter here. I thought joining an aviation company back after my beginnings of my career, I was really very surprised that there was still a hidden Pride network within the Lufthansa Group, not officially announced, not officially acting. And at this time, we were at the wake of launching it officially. And now we have Diversify within the Lufthansa Group. LSG is partly sold. Our European business was sold last year finally to Gate Group, and also the rest of our company will be sold. So I focus very much in the later stage on what we are doing within LSG, also because we have different challenges. LSG is working in 144 locations in 66 countries around the globe. So diversity and inclusion, yes, my big topic is LGBT, but I will also talk about the other other 4 dimensions, because they are all essential in the diverse network for all of us. Now, this also brings me the Lufthansa piece also to my first statement, and this is where I really encourage all of you to join in the discussion round. For me, there are certain reasons why the move and the fight for diversity is still very, very necessary, even in 2021, because there is the fear of the unknown. And for me, the Lufthansa example is a very good one. And a lot of Western companies still have it, and you might have also experienced this already in your different internships or in your work backgrounds. The senior management is mainly made up of white 50+ years boys clubs, and they have the fear of the unknown. And we can already start with the gender topic. The first fear is having a female colleague with them, sitting in the board, acting differently, because gender-wise, it's the unknown part. And here for me, the initial change is really driven by quotas. Before joining LSG, I really was against quotas, very honestly, because I experienced the time at Sodexo where in Germany, every position was put a female on. And we all said, okay, and for me, it felt being double punished. First of being male, and the second of being gay and not protected somehow or pushed forward. But after a certain period, I really came back and said, no, this is necessary, because having a woman here, having a woman there, you don't feel the impact. This gender balance makes a difference. And Sodexo globally is really very much focusing on the gender balance, even with having much stricter quotas internally, or having targets within the different business units, within the different departments. And we saw a really big positive change of having much more diverse workplace afterwards. So, but this would not be the same if it would have been only over the years without quotas, without targets. So this is for me a very, very strong focus, and naming all the different diversity topics as well. Even it's about LGBT topic, it's the same fear. It's the same with gender asset, and but also for disabilities, for religious backgrounds, and for race. So for me, this is the strong topic. The fear of the unknown is one reason why we still need to move forward in the diversity and inclusion topics. Are there already any questions or other opinions?
How far would you say that quotas have to go? I mean, we start with male, female. That's what you mentioned, but the same sentence you mentioned the other diversifications.
And we have some also over here in Germany. We have also somehow hidden quotas, like for disabilities. Either the company is employing disabled people, or they have to pay to fund other initiatives. So for me, I would say all 5 dimensions should have a quota to really foster the talents, and also make the companies aware of where the different aspects have their potential within the company. I have a very nice example there for one of our production sites in Brazil. We had a very eager general manager there, and he said, I want to employ disabled people. So I do with my management team a training about understanding what disabled people can do So in our industry, we do the airline catering food. So we have the cooking stations, but also we do, for example, in economy class, the tray setting. So usually you stand here, you have the tablets in front of you, and you take either the salt or the napkins or plates. You just put them from one to the other on the plate. So they really went in like being a deaf person. What can I do? Like a blind person, what is still able to do? And they figured out that they can employ much more people. It's again, the not understanding the opposite person, and the quota brings you to this aspect that you think beyond your own turf. So therefore, for me, all 5 dimensions should have a quota.
What are the 5 dimensions?
It's gender, it's age, it's the sexual orientation, it's race and religion. Yeah.
How did you approach this topic at your company? I mean, I know there are some governmental regulations for the DAX companies, but if you're not listed, how do you, or how can you approach as a person if there is nothing going on in your company?
I will show you later on what I personally did within LSG, but also in the Sodexo world, we really said, okay, there is a global network. So first joining in, and then talking to your senior management, to HR people, making them aware of, also showing them, and frankly speaking, I also made them aware of a positive side of having LGBT people in the company. Usually we are not married, or now we can be married, but we might not have the strings attached of a family. So we might be a bit more flexible in terms of working times. So why not also use those aspects in the benefit of the company? So those discussions you raise and you place even further with the management. But there are now also progresses within the world. So we all know about target setting. What is a business target? Maybe even having a certain percentage of your D&I elements placed within your team. And then those little challenges are starting. Oh, I already made my target. How about you, the colleague? And so you have those positive challenges also on those topics. So don't always push it on financial numbers, on the classic KPIs, but broaden your horizon and bring in those topics as well. Any other question? Yep.
Have you seen from management any challenges or in your experience of how you communicate after you get past the fear of the unknown and getting into diversity and inclusion? How do you communicate that effectively throughout your organization, that there's a shift or a change in perspective?
It is so, and this also brings me a bit already to the journey within LSG. We started small. I did last year a post about the heteronormativity around Pride Month in June. And then I got so many massive feedbacks back individually, and which were an argument, which opened up the dialogue to a friend out there in the field who is also then willing to engage. And then you have different angles, and raising the topic really up, especially in the HR community, having it all the time on the agenda. And for me, it's also about becoming normal, that I can talk about my husband and not I have a partner. And even there, I got really setbacks when we started to look out for other networks during the Sodexo times before launching our chapter. I spoke to a big telephone company here in Germany, and there I learned that they have even colleagues having a child seat in the back of their cars, so that everybody thinks they have the normal family life, and they are talking about the family life. Yes, I see your expression. This is the same how I felt. How far need I to go to be in such a position to really hide myself in the business environment? And we all know there might be gossips then around, oh, I saw him in last week and what. No, there's no need for it. I want to speak frankly about everything, about business topics, but also about my private life. And therefore, this openness needs to really be fostered and also needs to be shown within the company. And the more it becomes a normal topic, instead of making up the things, the more, or I also remember when we were talking about Black Lives Matter last year, what is the right thing to do? I cannot judge because I'm not colored, I cannot feel the emotions, and also we are here in Germany, we were far away from those riots, so we also cannot judge. We had to liaise with our colleagues in the States to really understand the pain and also their view on the topics. It's also this a bit more not having your say to it always, but also going deeper into understanding the background of the individual situation. Which is also directly linking me to the second part is, are quotas necessary? Yes, and you see why I think. And as I said, I was really against quotas because I never wanted to get a position because of me being gay. I always wanted to get it because I should have been seen by the management for the best choice for the company. But to make the workplace more colorful, I really had to change my mind, especially in the beginning of my career, having worked in the airline industry where you could have been everybody. The internationality in this business brought people from all over the globe together, and nobody was caring who you are, where you're coming from, if you belong to one of the 5 dimensions or not. You were the person you are at your workplace. And this really changed for me the first time within Sodexo, and this also changed my approach to the topic to be more active, because I was always out in my business life. In the airline industry, you could have talked about it. And then coming back to Lufthansa and realizing, oh, now it's different. Now you're in the big German Lufthansa, and here it's different. And I'm really happy that also, you might have seen it in the media, last year LSG was the only group company having changed the logo to rainbow colors in Pride Month. And this year, much more group companies followed. So there is a progress also in, and a bigger push would really be by the quotas, because especially the DAX companies, they have to fulfill. So there is no choice of doing or paying off like with the disability charges they are getting. So there you really have to deliver against. And then it's transparent. And the more you make it transparent, the more you cannot hide anymore afterwards from it. But also there is always this negative aspect. This is also why I'm saying it's kind of a maybe. And not a clear, absolute yes, because you always have this stigma, oh, this person got it only because of he or she is fulfilling 1 or 2 of those dimensions. But still, I think at least for a time, we need the quotas. As soon as we, also as the public realize the openness we bring into the companies, the change in the culture, in the corporate culture especially, the more we will realize that we needed to be forced to change.
Quick question on the Pride Month, the rainbow, the logos. What do you think is the main motivation for the companies doing that? Is it really that they think it's important and we do it because it's mostly on social media, of course? They don't, I don't know, do other stuff and
you only see the social media or the marketing aspect, but it always has an internal aspect for me as well. And this also brings me nicely into the soccer topic of this year. After UEFA decided not to have Allianz Arena in rainbow colors, it was the corporate world in Germany, especially also the very classic, the car manufacturers having changed their logos, having extra big announcement. The DIY store companies changed their logos. But this is a start of their journey, because if you once go out in that way, you cannot hide again, because you also do it public to the social media, but you also have a story, an internal story, and you have your LGBT network who is tapping on your toes and telling you what you did last year and that you have to fulfill the journey and that you need to go further. So it's not this when everybody says just changing the logo in rainbow colors, it's pinkwashing. If I only do this, then I'm fully signing that it's only pinkwashing, but it can also be the start of a journey. And maybe it's because it's also not the marketing freaks deciding to change the color. It has to be signed off even by the senior management. So as soon, and this is coming back also to your question, this is the first step for senior management to opening up their minds, to have a think, okay, shall we do it? If we do it, there might be strings attached to it. And we go that way. Yeah.
What question is here in the chat from Hannah Brooks. Do you have the feeling that in Germany it's one of the toughest place regarding implementing the diversity in comparison with other countries?
No, definitely not. And we internally had this year very, very long discussions because about our very global network. And Hannah, you're also talking about a very global network within the Sodexo world. We do a lot of business also in emerging markets, so Africa, but also Russia. And there are countries where you still, where it's still illegal to be gay or out as a gay person. So even there, we reach borders what we can do as a corporation. We can internally say, come to your workplace and you can be who you are, you will be protected in our world. But what is this person experiencing when they are in their leisure time again? There might be punishments because the colleagues know or the colleagues have their thoughts about it. And then it is transferred out into the public world where they might even get into legal cases. So Germany in terms of Europe, I would see as a bit of a tougher country, especially for the LGBT topic, but definitely not the toughest worldwide.
And we have another question from Ali. Ali, if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Is there any authority or any sort of body that kind of compares what the company actually shows on its marketing themes or on the website and what it actually does? Because for me, I have personally experienced that companies, let's say like when they are presenting something, they show a lot of people of color. Let's say like they show nowadays, if you go on career websites, you would see pictures of people from many countries and colors. But when you go inside the company, there is no one like that there. I recently worked for a big consumer goods company, and I never saw a single Black person there. And if you open the presentation, it starts with a picture of a female Black person. So I'm a little confused. What is happening?
Ali, I exactly know what you mean. And it's really also my observation that especially, again, social media has a big share on it, that colors, even the gender balance is something totally different, or that even you see gay couples on advertisements. Yes, but there is no agency globally or even nationally who is somehow changing what the company does because it's their freedom to do this. But again, also this, partly it is pinkwashing or whatever color washing compared to what they are doing, but it is also seen as a first step. Again, you cannot change your story again, because in the end, the customers will step away if you're not following up, or even you lose the trust within your own workforce. And I think this is also the power of the younger generation to talk about and to remind the companies what they are doing out there. Yeah, hiding or telling not the truth is also one big element. As I said, I want to speak about my husband. I also want to speak that I'm having a stepdaughter. And yeah, not getting only puzzled views and wanting to understand the story. For me, it's normality. It's my private life, but I'm the person I am. And I'm bringing myself to work, and the more we are all able to bring ourselves to work, the more we are also motivated and engaged. And also there are studies out there who show that 20% of the work time is lost time if people are hiding and have to build their own stories around, because the chat at the coffee maker is not that easy possible. Even if meetings are starting a bit more informal, when you talk about your weekend, and you're much more conscious throughout your day what you're doing. Can I pick up the phone if it's a private call and speak to the person or whatsoever, and you're not fully concentrated and motivated in your work time. And also there is still, my fourth element, there is still the fear of the glass ceiling. If I'm out, how far will I be able to go the career ladder up? Is it right to do so? Is it right to push myself out in the company, or even to try to move my company into a certain direction? Or shall I better keep quiet and calm and not to move into any of those directions, because it might be an easier way for me? And for me, I am out and I at least haven't experienced so far any disadvantages out of being out and speaking and bringing those topics up. It's really more the opposite, that I see the move and I see the change within the LSG world to move into that direction of a more open culture, that we also see a chance of retention within those elements of diversity if we allow people to be themselves at the workplace. Maybe especially in our environment of being sold, having to create our own culture and using those elements. And also we see here that especially the younger workforce is very much asking for it and moving with us in the same direction. Before I move on, are there any other questions or, yeah?
From my side, do you think, not necessarily from your experience, but from what you talk with the other managers and other friends, peers of you, which industry do you think that it's harder to be changed regarding this topic, diversity and inclusion?
I would see the classic manufacturing industries where you also work with a lot of blue-collar people. I have a close colleague also within our company saying, I only buy this story if the dishwasher in Panama, he always quotes, is able to tell to his group that he is gay. And truly that's the end of the show. Or then we are fully transparent and fully diverse globally. But the more the blue collar, or even talking about chefs, if you talk about a kitchen business, it's also very hard industry where you have this very classic settings. Even there, female chefs, we see only famous female chefs for the past couple of years being very much present in the public. Before it was only a male-dominated business. Again, and all four of those arguments would value why it is so. So, and also we see it here in Germany, speaking now about the car manufacturing industry, there the story starts, but also more from a management, more from, let's say, non-manufacturing elements in the company. Yeah.
I have one question about the second part, because you asked if the quotas are necessary. Do you mean for each categories?
Yes.
Those 5 categories?
Exactly. Because
Okay.
we saw, and the reason for is, so here in Germany, we have those quotas, at least on the board levels, even for our DAX companies, on the gender topic. And now the companies are moving into that direction. But they won't, the other dimensions do not follow stringently in that aspect. So you would need a quota for every single dimension.
Also religion, would that be part of that quota?
Sure. Why not?
But how does religion give like combining that with business? I don't see exactly the benefit of that.
We all and you can talk about also race, about it's in the same, going into the same direction. If I can be out myself, and then also the religion counts in for it, and you also be yourself. So, for example, as we are a global company, also in the airline industry, you have the halal business. So our halal director is praying within our premises, so he can talk to us about it. We give him the space, the flexibility, also to live his religion within our cultural environment, within our corporate environment. So him having the ability, and he's not banned out. And so therefore, the more open we are for also the religious part in this world, for those who it's important, the more open we are.
Maybe it will have a negative side if you apply by saying that your religion is this, or your political view is this part, or something like that.
There is
because I mean, for what the example you was mentioning right now, it's acceptance. If you accept a person is Muslim, that's absolutely no problem with that, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's the way to go. But I'm a little bit more afraid, not afraid, but concerned. If you write in the application, I am Muslim, I am different color of whatever it is, and then you will not be somehow accepted in that way.
And this, but and exactly your fear is also pointing out that we need to have this openness, even forced or freely chosen by because whatever color you have, whatever religion you're following, whatever sexual orientation you have, you should be able to apply and should be chosen based on the skills you're bringing to the company, and maybe your private values are supporting your skills positively. And it's not about telling in my application I'm blah, 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 but it's about as long as you joined a company based on your skills, you want to be open within your colleagues, a group of colleagues. So you don't want to fear that within your probation period, somebody tells you, we didn't know that you are Muslim, that you are colored, and we maybe don't want to prolong your. Also, you should have the chances for your career, same as talking about the Western world as a white male person. Why should you be punished on you haven't chosen your religion, you haven't chosen your color, so why should you be punished at some point in your life? Yeah.
I think quotas are a brilliant initiative, but how can we prevent quotas from being politicized over time and for them to be true to their objectives of inception?
If we change quotas into targets, and if we bring it as open as, and maybe not all companies are following the 5 dimensions of diversity, as long as they somehow set targets that within the teams they want to be more diverse. Then we come closer to those topics, and then I'm not ticking boxes anymore, but then I'm talking, in that case, for example, to you, and talk about a role, about a project manager, and you tell me that you have a Scrum Master experience, and I say, okay, this is exactly the person I'm looking for. And I don't care about it anymore. And nobody's telling me from somebody else, oh, have you seen he's colored, or I heard he's a Muslim, or whatsoever. We should be free in our selection, really about, or maybe you are the perfect fit because the team, the rest of the team is a female team, and we said we want to have a male person in it. Even then, it might be, you might be the right fit for this position.
But from a business context, in that case, how do we ensure that the person is a right fit without it being quantifiable? You know, because I think on some level we have to quantify a quota for it to add business sense as well. So where do we strike that balance?
It's a tough question, honestly. Yeah, because there is no right or wrong. And as I said during my Sodexo times, when we had the push for the gender balance, and we felt that only female were selected at a certain point, we all felt disencouraged to even apply for. And this is why I'm saying the earlier you come to a certain level, and maybe initially it's based on a number I have to fulfill, but the more I'm pushed to learn, or that senior management is pushed to learn that this creativity comes from diverse people. Not because we are all the same, we all have the same ideas and we are thinking in the same direction, but maybe our targeted audience is thinking completely different, but we lost them out of scope. And it's really this opening up your own company to understand what the public wants, or what your cooperation partner wants. So it's this understanding, and the majority are acting globally, and I have to deal with more or less the whole world. So I need to understand the whole world, and the more I bring them into my workforce, the more I'm understanding the whole world. Yep.
Just a quick question. So generally these quotas are just about the hiring numbers, right? But you see that most of the people who are not like a white man, they don't make it that easily to senior management or chairman level positions. So how do you then translate this into that?
This is exactly why quotas are needed. And you're absolutely right what you're saying. You see that they might be on a maximum middle management level. And this is also where we here in Germany have especially the pressure on the DAX companies and on their top management levels, because as soon as I change here, and a lot of decisions are still top down, and they can push them to implement the changes, especially the gender change in their top management, the more they also start their own communities to build. If I have, and in our case, it's also very interesting, my boss, she is the CFO, she is female. So there is then the natural fit that you gather people around you who are saying belonging to your group. So yes, she has also certain brought into or brought to the position certain female, which is then starting this change on the other levels. And via those quotas, you do these changes through all your hierarchy levels. Yep.
You mentioned that you work quite a bit internationally, and I was wondering, how do you stick to your diverse values when you talk to international counterparts that are maybe from more conservative countries, and not necessarily where being gay is illegal, but you know, where there's always this thing of like saving face, and do they feel offended? So I sometimes have the issue when I talk to East Asians that some topics just feel
really awkward, but at the same time, we want to stick to our values. How do you navigate this? What do you advise?
I managed also service contracts in Middle East and in India, and therefore I also made this experience. You don't need to be verbally with everything, but just that you have in your corporate life areas where you can be verbal, where you can be fully transparent, and then also have this openness. I'm not needing to tell everybody that I'm married to a man. But having the flexibility to choose is the right thing to approach for me. Or even, and India was a very interesting topic for me also from the gender aspect, because I also had a UK colleague, a female colleague, having to travel to India, and she made totally different experiences, especially in a very male-dominated world, and how she felt. You're smiling, but for her, it felt really like being harassed, being not dealt with right in the public or even in the business environment. Or I also had to learn different things. We had a driver standing outside in the sun waiting for us, and our meeting took on. And naturally, it was for me, hey, come on, tell him he can still hide in the shadow. We need another hour. And then I was told, oh, don't worry, he's paid for. No, but from my cultural background, this is not the right way to do. I'm polite to everybody, whatever job they are doing. So it's also that in some dimensions, you have a role to play, or you can show, hey, we do a different approach. It's also in our company values that we honor everybody on all job levels. Yeah.
Do you feel it would be beneficial to have the 5 dimensions listed on CVs?
No, because and this is also a good example. Before we had the official marriage here in Germany, also for the LGBT community, I was partnered, and in German it was called verpartnert, so being partnered. And by my official status on my CV, I was more or less forced by our government to out myself. So I always said there I'm married, because this is the negative part of, because then your CV might already be not moved forward if the company doesn't get the value. And this is still for me where I'm saying also this glass ceiling, at least at an entry stage, might be there. Whereas as long as you then in the company have a different approach to it, because the company knows you already and knows the qualities you're bringing to the company.
So then the quotas are once you already have your foot in the door.
No, quotas are a very official governmental thing if they are implemented. And even then, you don't want to join a company based on your quota. You want to join a company based on your skills. Any other question? If not, I would move on. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I realized in Germany you have to put your photo on your CV, and I was wondering, how does this help anybody? Because before you are even your qualifications or your skills are looked at, your photo will be looked at first, and that alone can cause discrimination.
That is actually not even necessary, but people will put you out because you don't have a picture. Actually. So it's an indirect. It's not legally obligated to have your photo on the CV, but
it changed very much. It never was legally obligated, but it was common that you have to have a photo on your CV. Absolutely, and this was maybe even a very German thing. And then it also felt strange that even in the UK, you got, and when I was managing the project in the UK, that you got CVs without a photo. I want to see with whom I'm dealing in the future. But exactly, this is the first barrier, because we are all human beings and we will judge based on what we are seeing. Absolutely, but now it is becoming much more international also over here, but also, yeah, I I see you shaking your head because it's also part of the change. And this is also my big message. I'm fighting for equal rights. I'm fighting for an equality for everybody out there. I know that at the end of my life, we won't have reached it already, but we all need to do our bits and pieces to somewhere come there. And this is also the steps further to it, yeah.
I also get your pain because in the United States, it's very common for us on your submitting applications to choose your race, your ethnicity. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff in there. Are you a veteran? Are you not a veteran? So it's like non-discriminatory, but then you have to put male, female. I choose not to answer. And it gets really like into your details despite being non-discriminatory. And I've never understood why we have to have that in applications, but it's because of the law. And I think it's very interesting. And it's the same like when I moved here, having to submit CVs with a photo. I was like, but is this not like illegal? So I get your point, and I think other countries also have similar. Like the US is a prime example.
And a question to Hannah, may I share your story from the Zurich times? Because I think this is also a very interesting example for the group.
Of course you are.
Thank you, Hannah. Now, Hannah and I also met during the Sodexo times, and we were looking for a very professional receptionist at the Zurich headquarters in Cologne. And Hannah is trans. So for me, she was the right person based on her qualification. She did this in the AXA Academy before and managed the whole property beside it. So she was perfectly fit for the job. But there might be a negative side effect in a very traditional insurance company over here. But we were successful. And she, even our counterpart at Zurich, supported us and even said to Hannah, whenever you get negative feedback or any comments, that you come directly to me and I'm supporting you. So this also shows there is the openness. We sometimes also need to be encouraged enough to take those steps forward. And as long as I followed the contract, there was never one negative aspect or negative comment towards Hannah in the role, because she was chosen by her professional life and had a perfect match there. Yep.
Do you think people from these communities are feeling socially isolated in their workplaces, that even though they're getting hired with the quota systems and there are plenty of them, they're still not the majority? And is there a social isolation which is probably affecting your performance?
There is social isolation as long as I cannot talk about myself. And this is also with, as long as we start to speak openly, even you have minorities in the company, but if we can talk transparently about ourselves, then we are not isolated anymore, because we don't also need always people of our same identification, but we want to speak, or even you might have curious people wanting to understand you as a person much more. So for me, the isolation is directly broken up when you are able to talk about yourself in the workplace. Yeah.
On your story about Hannah, do you think she would have been able to get the job without your support, without your help? Because it seems to me like you were there for her, but in another situation where you wouldn't have.
I was asked by my counterpart for the right candidate. Yes, he trusted my selection from our internal portfolio, but it could have been somebody else who is also open enough to go that way. It might have helped that I have this openness by myself, yes. But it is a little step in the right direction. And the more, and also how she came to Sodexo, it was a heterosexual colleague who even brought her into the company. So we need to have the right mindset. And we generate this mindset the more we talk about and the more open the company environment is.
I'm just like, I've been in Germany for about 10 years. And I mean, I've seen I've seen change over the past 10 years, but I also come from an industry that is very, very, very male dominated, white male dominated. And so for me, it's like, you know, you tell the story, and for me, it's like very impressive because I don't imagine in the situation, my working situations that I've been, that something like this could happen. Like, I've been very impressed when a person of color has been hired, when me myself, when I've been hired. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's like an amazing story. I really hope that things change and much quicker than they have to date.
And this is also still my hope. As that, I'm not believing in the full transparency and the full openness at the end of my life, but this is my part. I want to support, but also coming especially to the LGBT arena. There is the Proud at Work Foundation here in Germany, where more or less open companies are gathering and are supporting or exchanging also on their moves within the company. And what I see there, the portfolio has really changed. There is Bosch, for example, now member of, where I never would have thought of, or even Audi, BMW are really engaging in those networks. And this is also where we try to move LSG also onto, because also the more you as a company do those statements, the more you really want then that your workforce gets a benefit out of those activities. You had also one question, right?
It was more a comment. We can barely hear when people on that side are contributing or asking questions. So if you can please raise your voice,
please.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. You talked a lot about diversity quotas and what you can do in this sphere. Now your topic of the presentation is D&I, so also inclusion. So are there also some inclusion KPIs maybe in companies, and wouldn't they be even more important than diversity quotas, so to say?
A good question, and I think it is easier to work on the diversity quotas, because then it's really a number and a tick in the box compared to the inclusion, because the inclusion is also, in my view, still very differently interpreted company by company, and also bit based on their business environment and also on their geographical spread. What is inclusion in their relative environment? And therefore, I think it's also about the starting point is the diversity, which is then led over into the inclusiveness of a company.
So kind of that it goes automatically from when you're diverse, you're saying, then you also.
Exactly, yeah. And it's the same if I only talk about the gender dimension, then I'm stuck there and I will never come into the inclusive piece of my work environment. Whereas the more I'm opening up either culture, either LGBT, the more I'm supporting also becoming an inclusive company. Any other question before I move on? No? Also, for me, is why my fighting for in the corporate environment is also one of my first points here. In the business environment, the change can be driven much easier. And this is also based what we experienced in the soccer tournament, or when we see how the different countries in this world position themselves towards the LGBT topic. Why did the whole discussion come up? Because the Hungarians, with their anti-LGBT laws coming to Germany and playing against us in Munich. And we saw a big support out there. But it's also a president or the politicians are selected by the public. So they will act according to the interests in the public. And it's a bit similar, it's also with all leisure activities like soccer, like all other sports events. Also, I choose where I'm engaging myself. I choose the sporting club I'm supporting, and they don't select me. Whereas in the corporate environment, we are all selected based on different criteria. And if we are in a corporate environment, we might be a bit more open to listen and to have a thought process compared to being in our private life where nobody is allowed to tell me what I have to do, what I have to think about. So the change in the corporate element will then also bring the change in our public opinions. And the more the change happens in the corporate environment, the more it will also be transferred into the private life. And also for me, the diverse environments are fostering new ideas and new business models, which is also proven all along the track. And this coming back also to the statements about ads and where we see the changes in colors, the changes in even the sexual orientation on those ads. It is realized by those companies doing these advertisements that the world is much more colorful out there and that they see business opportunities for themselves. But also coming back to your point, where the more we have diverse teams internally, we understand our audience outside or the audience of our work, and therefore business will be different the more diverse we are. You also will not listen to any 50+ male telling you what you want and what you want to buy next year as your summer clothes. So it's simple as that. We need to think about, and the more global we become, the more global the brands become, the more you need to have within your company, somehow the world replicated, because then you truly understand whom you're serving to. Yeah, and I see also on the 5 dimensions of diversity give the business environments the new face, and not just one or a selected number of. And also we see here that the crisis somehow is a catalyst for all of us, and especially in this dimension. And this is also linking to the LSG story. I think we wouldn't be there where we are today without the crisis, because the business somehow paused, and in those moments we really also have the freedom to think a step further and to think about those social aspects, maybe not bringing money in the first step, but doing a change in the culture, in the corporate culture. And this also brings me a bit to what we did within LSG. As said, last year, for the very first time, we changed in the Pride Month our logo to the rainbow colors, more or less, combined then with a statement about heteronormativity, and that it was my wish at the time that there is a change necessary in this thinking process, also within our company or within the wider group. And at this point, yes, we did it. We pushed it out internally, but also on LinkedIn. And I wasn't sure what will happen afterwards, honestly. I thought even after the launch, I thought, okay, maybe I get a call from the board that this was not the right thing to do so. Or will they say, hey, cool initiative? Silence. Was the silence good? I don't think so. But it showed that it is at least tolerated what we are starting here. And this case is also why I'm still believing that only or initially changing your logo is also seen as the first step and not only as pinkwashing, because for us it was really the step forward. Because when last year the top out 100 executives list was launched and my company did a post again, because me being part of it, we had a second approach with the topic back in November. So far away from Pride Month, far away from everything. And I got individual feedback from people being in this company for 30 years. And they said, hey, how cool is this? I never thought that this will happen in my lifetime, that the logo will change, and that somehow the company is acknowledging me and myself as part of this company. So also the approach, or I also had discussions where people saying, no, I don't see it this way, but even this dialogue is a chance to have this dialogue, and it's better than hiding and not speaking about it. So this was the journey in 2020. And now I come to the and now I come to our journey in 2021. In May, we talked about that we push forward all 5 dimensions. Even our CFO did a statement also in public. We then changed again our colors and also shared the rainbow logos for our colleagues to put into their signature. And this was also heavily done. Even this was a question last year. Where did you get it from? I want to do it as well. So even heterosexual colleagues asked for showing their support. And this is also a big, big statement that there is this appetite to do a change. Next thing is a very close colleague to me also talked about those hidden biases. So talking about this is gay in front of him, or this whispers in the background, oh, he might be gay, or those gay jokes in front of a person you definitely know that he or she is gay. So he talked about it in his final statement. And yes, if you're still wondering if I am or not, yes, I am. And he also got a very positive feedback for, first of all, talking about these little small things which can be harmful to everybody. But also for him outing himself in front of the whole company. But there's more to come. Yes, we also talked about Juneteenth this year for the very first time. And especially about here being very active in the US. It is from operational viewpoint, the biggest region, or our biggest operational region in LSG. So also here we had the local touch with this topic. Then in June, our CFO again talked, because she's also head of HR, so therefore she's also doing a lot of posts around those topics. She did a video statement that we commit to diversity and that we only started this journey. Then a US colleague also talked about him being gay and how he doesn't want to overdo this topic, but wants to be himself at work. And last but not least, the Proud Executives list by Proud at Work were announced, and also there the company and Harald and myself, we did an interview together and talking about that the journey started and we won't stop there. So you see the big difference, what we reached within 1 year. And even this year, we decided not to change back our colors with the 1st of July. No, we said we will keep it definitely for an extra month, and also want to communicate about this one, why we decide to stay with the colors, and also moving on with the journey. And yeah, it's not just a verbal commitment here, we really go that way. And this also where I see a very positive change in our corporate world here. To close, why am I doing all this? Why am I standing today here in front of you and talking about something in my youth? I also experienced I'm different. I'm not interested in the girls. I do not know what I'm interested in. And then realize, yes, it's the boys. So you feel different. And if you're grown up somewhere, not in a big city in Germany in the 80s, you'll feel very alone. You feel that you might have to hide who you are, because also you do not know whom to talk to, who you feel, or even about your feelings. My coming out was then during my civil service at the German Navy. Yes, maybe not the first place you would have thought to, but having had the privilege to be in the German Navy, in the school up on the island of Sylt, I realized how many open gay Marine soldier, Navy soldiers there were, and that the topic wasn't a hidden topic anymore. So if it's in this boys club, being able, also there we had a first part, the female part in the hospital team, but they were in the second year to having female soldiers there. So there was also this aspect of that the army is opening up for the gender, and realizing that you also can be gay and can talk about it in that environment, supported me from that moment on, not wanting to hide anymore. And as said, having worked in the beginning of my life in a very open business environment in the tourism field, I never felt that you have to hide or that you have to do something, because there it really felt like the dream world that everybody can be him or herself at work. But at Sodexo, I realized the difference. Also, people talking about myself in a negative ways, or doing those gay jokes right in front of me, knowing that I'm gay and thinking, I think it's funny what they are doing. And this brought me to the point that I want to speak about it, and that I want to do my part of the change, and not just to the LGBT world, but really to a much more diverse business environment. And now I'm open for all your questions you haven't asked so far. Yep.
Maybe another question. So I think we see in a lot of German companies right now that like diversity and inclusion managers are hired to really drive the topic forward. So from your personal viewpoint, do you think these new roles become obsolete at some point, so not necessary anymore? Or do you think it's like a topic which will always require persons who really manage it, that the positive aspects of diversity can be leveraged, so to say?
It's a bit of a twofold answer, because at present, and as that I I won't see the full diverse business world at the end of my life. Until this point, those roles are definitely necessary to remind us, also to drive this way, because, and this is the same thing for us within LSG, we do it as our leisure topic at the moment, supported by HR, supported by communication, but it's on the volunteers. And therefore, the positive element is having D&I managers in the company driving those changes, reminding people, having their work time to focus on the topic. Therefore, I see it as, yeah, for the next 100 years, definitely as a role or even a team within the organization to have to bring value to the organization. And yes, ideally, at some point we are really inclusive, and it's lived through all the hierarchical levels. But then I again want to quote my colleague talking about the dishwasher in Panama. I think also there is lots and lots of work, especially in global companies, to come to this point.
We have a question from Prashant.
Yep.
Prashant, go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks for your really the much information, because I came to know what's actually happening, what kind of transformation is actually happening in the companies and also with respect to the governments. But my question is, I think the first step or the biggest responsibility lies with the governments.
Can you speak up a bit? It's very hard to hear yourself.
Can you hear now?
Yes, now it's better.
Yeah, I feel the biggest responsibility still lies with the governments to bring it, to bring the community more inclusive by framing the right laws and providing the security or the safety of the individuals.
Yeah.
So how do you think that the governments are actually responding to these things?
I'm absolutely with you, and but I think also that the global cooperation bringing business to different countries have the right power or the right approach to push even the countries by bringing money into the country or not, and also driving those changes there to really open up the world. But the first step is also by creating the safe environment for their employees. It's also a first step, and then making this vocal within the countries towards the governments. This is for me also the right approach in that we become a much safer planet all around the world.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, could you maybe share a couple of examples of some actions or measures you put in place within the company to make the company more inclusive or more diverse? Because I feel like, you know, the logo thing is nice, and if you include it in your email signature, that's also nice. You can put a pin, and that might be a show like on an individual level that who is behind this all these measures, but on a corporate level, I see it more like marketing. You know, just to, our company is super inclusive. Here's our logo, all in colors, super nice. But so like, yeah, I would like that. I think it's a matter of education, right? So you need to change the way people think.
Absolutely.
And so could you maybe share some of the things you do?
Of course. So by hiring team members and putting people into the positions, this is the first, and maybe it sounds like the easiest, but not the easiest part. And also supporting then the people in their integration into the team, or even speak up if you heard those nasty jokes done by colleagues that this is not the right thing, or when you see that the boys are talking about the girl not in the right way. And I said, no, I don't accept this. In this environment, I don't accept this. Or even if it's a colleague from another team and you hear him not or her not behaving in the right way, and directly confronting the person with what you experienced and that you don't think that it is right. It's really about the courage you bring, and then it's about really hiring diverse teams, creating diverse teams, or even by selecting project members, make up the mind who you really need and how you want to see this integrated into the team by selecting the team members. Or even talk to, if you have to borrow people in the organization, why you want to have explicitly this person, either based because you say, okay, I want to have a gender balance in it, or this person brings the skill level with it, and I want to open up the mindset, or I want to have a controversial discussion within this project because this makes us more lively. So being vocal and acting accordingly to it is what I'm trying to do wherever I have the chance to. Yeah.
I have a question. You said that at the beginning, the C-level, the board was silent when you changed the logo. Do you think that they were silent because they act somehow from marketing perspective? Because most of the companies this year, most of the companies I saw on LinkedIn and everywhere, they changed their logo. Do you think that first was their instinct to change because of the marketing, not to be let out?
I think they were silent because they didn't know what to say to me, honestly. And no, this year I changed it. I brought it up and asked my boss to do a statement in public, especially about LGBT. And then she said, oh yeah, why not doing it? So this is again the activity. Bring the topic up and say what you want. You can be successful, or you get a no, but then you also know, maybe then is it still the right place for me to be? So acting accordingly is the key element in driving the change. Also bringing those business activities. As I said initially, I initiated together with colleagues the Pride chapter within Sodexo, bringing this topic up, getting the support. Also, we achieved that Sodexo signed up for Proud at Work and engaged there. Sodexo also had wonderful global D&I VP, and we brought her to one event to Germany. And so you make people aware of, you have people from our on-site teams, so even chefs, cleaners, whatsoever, could join in and get approach to this topic. So be open, and also, especially in the LGBT arena, be approachable. That if somebody says, hey, I'm struggling because I'm the dishwasher in Panama and I'm not feeling right to speak about it. This is other activities to drive the change within the environment. Yeah.
Have you also done any social listening in your community or among your consumers or customers? So did you get any positive reactions or also negative reactions from them?
As I said, so in the Sodexo world, the Hannah story, let's call it that way, was a very positive reaction in the client environment. So being supported is the most powerful message. Also driving into the whole business of Zurich, that we are open. This is the first thing within LSG. Our customers, the airlines, they are much more advanced and they maybe acknowledge, but they are not massively talking about it. So it is for us more also following them where they are to become, even if they are interested or not, but having this as part of our sustainability strategy, and motivate, or even then demonstrating this in tenders, in presentations. So, and then it's not just a lip service, then it's a real engagement. And this is always the aim for me, that it's, whatever I'm doing, it's not a lip service, it's really the engagement of the company. Any other question?
No, but maybe I can add one more aspect to your story about myself here with Sodexo. Sodexo is a very open company, but when it comes to gay and to lesbian employees, the fact of being gay, of being lesbian is widely understood, but the fact of being trans is not so understandable for a lot of people. And even within Sodexo, I had some struggles, and I had one or two points I had to get over. And I can say that being a trans woman and being hired by Sodexo was a point where even Sodexo, which is a very, very open company, learned something new, something more. And I remember one or two occasions where one of my managers came to me and I said, Hannah, I really had to excuse to you because I thought you were a completely other person, because I had some very different and some very colorful pictures in my head when I heard about you. And I learned you better in another way, and I think you are really trustworthy. You are a really respectable person, and I guess that is the way you have to encounter the people. You have to get to the point that it's not just being gay, not just being lesbian, not just being trans, what makes out your personality. It is only one part of your personality, and all the other parts have to be respected and explored too.
Absolutely, Hannah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also what Hannah mentioned here, being LGBT, and then, oh, but you're still trustworthy, or I realized you're trustworthy. Where's the interconnection? And it's also sometimes that you need to stand those discussions or raise those questions, that you bring people to think twice what they are saying. Because again, it's the unknown. So as Hannah said, they have colorful pictures. Or when I'm talking about my private life, oh, that's a very normal life you're here. Okay, do you think we are always partying every night? We are in gay clubs out every day. So what is the public thinking about being gay in 2021? So then they realize, oh, this is a very normal life you're living. Yeah, but why not? Exactly. So is my style of living influenced by being part of one of the dimensions? Definitely not, or there is definitely not a close link to it. So overcoming all those aspects and doing my little piece in changing is definitely on my agenda.
It's a tough way, but we are getting there. We are getting there.
Exactly.
I think that's just like a lot of prejudices. Like, I mean, I don't even need to go so far, but like my first job in Germany, people told me, wow, like for a Spanish person, you're a super hard worker. And I was like, you know, like what does one thing have to do with the other? Like I'm Spanish, but I'm like, we're not always like doing siesta and partying.
Exactly, but this is
so it's just prejudices like all around.
So see, you also do your part in changing things. And this is also important.
Showing that Spanish people can work as well.
Exactly. You had another question?
Yes, I have a question. I am from Norway, and Norway is a country where equality between the genders are really ahead compared to many other different countries here in Europe. And it's a really interesting phenomenon what you can see in Norway when it comes to professions between the genders. because the more liberty, let's say, or the more encouragement you will try to get the other gender to work in a place where it's, for example, dominated by men, that you want more growth of women to come there and work there. You see the opposite effect in Norway. So it kind of gets more and more polarized between the genders. So it's somehow, I don't know, people just follow kind of their instinct somehow, but I don't know how to make a society like this more diversified if they already like going apart from each other.
And I think this is also relating back to your earlier question, the need for the D&I managers. And here the first wave, and we all know that there is usually a first wave, and then those subgroups are starting to build and to gather and to strengthen themselves. So then the next wave you need to start is really overcoming those subgroups and the subgatherings, which is the important key then of the D&I teams in the company.
Maybe I can just hop in.
No, sorry, one moment, please. When you are on the first wave of balancing your genders, for example, in your company, then those groups are starting to gathering. So you have the female networks starting together, and you have the male networks to start together. And this is exactly driving, again, the split and the controversial moves. So then you really need to start working via the D&I teams to overcome those subgroups and subgatherings.
You mean already in the company?
Right? Yes, within the company.
I mean, in the broader spectrum, in the workplace, or different workplaces.
So you mean more or less in public?
Yes, in public or in different companies, because what you can see, mostly, even though there's quotas to get more females to work as engineer or to study engineer, for example, to work as engineer, you see there's a problem to find employers or grow women employers. And how to tackle that problem, because then anyways it doesn't become diversified. But by that,
then we
the
need
first wave has already been there.
Exactly. But then you also need to go into the education arm, that you foster those balances within the different studies. So if you realize you will not get any more engineers, female engineers, because girls start not to study anymore in this field, you need to attract them right away from the school into their fields of study.
Yeah.
This is then the piece where all those topics can be influenced via the corporate environment, but need to be transferred then also into the public environment.
You understand?
And I see also, and we sometimes even here in Germany see those counter moves when you have those opennesses commonly spread, that that those counter moves are starting to begin, that you become also very classic again, and it's then really that from your childhood onwards, your parents need to start with this process of opening things up, and then the education, the public is asked again.
I see. And do you think it's could be like, I don't know, maybe like a biological factor as well? For example, if I study medicine, and during my medical school, it was mostly females, and was low percentage of men. And usually those men who was working as medical doctors, they became surgeons or more practical parts just by kind of nature. Like, so even though that encouragement of getting more men to work as cardiologists or something like this, but it's kind of never happened. Well, it's a problem to make that happen. So where is the answer? Like how to do that, how to tackle that problem?
But again, and this is where we also experience those girls' days in the business environment, where kids out of school are really encouraged to look across. And sometimes I really see also this as a phenomenon that we also need to start with the boys' days. And some companies are already starting up the girls' days to kids' days, because this is the phenomenon we also need to cater with. We cannot always talk about our minorities. We also need to think how we can push the whole society in the right direction. And as you said, opening it up and showing the boys then the different fields in the field of medicine. This is the way how to really become the inclusive piece right from the childhood into the workplace.
Emily, I think you wanted to say something earlier.
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to hop on that conversation because I also had that conversation with a friend once. And I think it's a very important distinction to make, where Norway is so far ahead and you have these options where women are choosing not to go into these fields and men are choosing not to go into a certain field. Whereas I don't think that is what is considered the norm around the world. I think in a lot of places, women feel like they can't enter, for example, space engineering. That for a while was a huge thing, and that's why we had movies about like with the Hidden Figures. And I think it's I mean, it's a different question altogether for me, and maybe it's a discussion point, but I think when you've reached a point where the opportunities are there, but people are choosing not to go into it, it's a whole different question of, should we then force diversity there versus the more common issue of around the world, the opportunities are currently not there, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And Emily, this is exactly into forcing, or people are doing their choice by nature, but they had all the options and they were not forced into only a limited field of options. Yeah, still lots of topics and still a long way to go for all of us. So I can only encourage you, especially when I look into the diverse field within this group, take your fair share in the whole movement. Yeah, this is my end. Thank you very much. Also, thank you very much, especially for your active contribution. I think exactly this is what I was looking to have, a joint open conversation. And also a big thank you to Hannah for joining in and also sharing her story. And also those slides were supported by Emily, who is an LSG marketing colleague. So also a big thank you to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, Axel, for being with us, for being so honest and sharing your story, because everyone knows diversity is a very complex topic and complicated and so on. And it's not easy to be so honest and to share everything what you go through your career. And this is a gift from our side.
Thank you very much. And also thank you very much for having me and giving me the chance to talk about it.
Thank you so much. And I hope, and all of us, we are hoping to hear about you in the future, that you change more and more and you have more achievements in this DNA part. And for those which we are here offline, sorry, on campus, downstairs in the lounge we have prepared snacks and the drinks, which are sponsored by Immobilien Treuhand and Prodware. And for you guys online, we can say that we are very sorry for you that you are not here to ask more questions for Axel, and also to network with us, and also for sure to drink and to eat something. So we can tell only that enjoy your dinner home, and hopefully that we will see you next time here. Thank you so much for being here. Bye, guys. So, we go down. The food is already arrived here. If you are hungry or not. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will close, and then we can also take it.
You guys took time to get the food.
How is it? What is it?
Wonderful. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.